All right, and we're live. Everybody, how's it going? This is Barney Kunze, and I am tuning in live from Ontario, Canada. And we just had a little mini winter here in Ontario, so I don't know where you guys are at in the world. I know that in past lives we've had people from all over, from Morocco, from the Philippines to Australia to Germany to Tanzania, Latvia, Mexico, United States, and Canada. And either way, it's cool. We love having everybody part of the entire event from all over the world. And today we're going to jump in right into getting to know two of our presenters a little bit more. We're going to take some questions. I know that by the time you guys get these the emails, it's a fine balance for us to not overwhelm you, which the event in an event like this, which is the summit, where an event like this kind is, frankly, it's overwhelming in general because it's so amazing. There's so much content and material and just awesome stuff that's being shared. And so these Facebook Lives are like bonus content for you just to really get to know some of the presenters better and some of the topics that we've seen or some of the presentations that we have seen and observed to be very popular. And so what I'd love for you to do is, as you're coming in now, and if you're coming in just live now, just drop a comment and say, hey, I always use this as a funny joke, but hey, Barney, your hair looks great. Or, you know, I'm tuning in. Just let us know where you're tuning in from. So whether you're from the States or from Canada, just let us know. And I'm going to bring on Dr. Ruth Roberts here in just a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over a little bit more in detail about her presentation from this year. She was a second-time Animal Wellness Summit presenter. And it's really neat because I've gotten a chance to get to know Dr. Ruth through Dr. Will Faulkner, who I got to know through 3 different presenters actually recommended this guy, Dr. Will Faulkner. And then he's like, yeah, you really should have Dr. Ruth Roberts. She's amazing. And I'm not just saying that because she's on here right now. But Dr. Ruth, let's bring you on here. And I'm going to hit this magic button. And here she is. Voila.
The magic button has worked, hopefully.
The magic button has worked. So welcome, Dr. Ruth. Tell us where you're from. Well, where are you right now, actually? Because I know you're.
Yeah. So yeah, we're from the car, but right now we're in Sedona, Arizona. So back at the end of June, my wife and I packed the thing we owned and headed out west. So we're enjoying lots of sunshine and 65 degrees, and it's just beautiful.
Nice. Sedona.
Mona too.
What's that last part?
Mona and Pepe. So we're traveling with our little dachshund and our cat Pepe.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I know Sedona is one of my favorite places in the States, and Arizona, one of my favorite states. But I love Sedona. I probably could live there, and maybe I will sometime. But
maybe
not forever. But it's a place that I feel at home. It's probably one of the. There's about 3 places that I've traveled to that I go there, and I just feel like I'm still at home. It just feels comfortable there. Do you feel that too?
It's just awesome here, and people are so friendly, and the area is just, the scenery is just spectacular.
Yeah. So neat. So let's jump into it because we're going to have Megan come on in about 25 minutes, Megan Ayrault. And you have an extensive history in words, and I'd like you to just do your best and within 60 to 90 seconds, give everybody, in case they're like, well, who's Ruth Roberts, Dr. Ruth Roberts? Just give us a quick snapshot, and then let's get into some of the specifics from, just a little bit more as to how you came about doing your presentation or topic title for this year, okay?
Sure. So again, I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts. The work I've done over the years is to move from conventional veterinary medicine into integrative and holistic medicine. And I love working with pet parents that just want to do everything they possibly can for their pets. And so that includes using the best of conventional medicine, a home-cooked diet I developed called the Original Crock Pet Diet, and then using the laboratory tests and things of that nature to help develop the best set of options for that pet at that time. And the goal is to keep the quality of life as high as we can and minimize the drugs that we use or eliminate them if at all possible, so that these guys are just able to have a wonderful time and not feel bad from the things that are helping them be treated for whatever disease they've got going on, whether it's cancer, kidney disease, arthritis, all of those things that sneak up on us as we get older. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you were practicing for how many years again?
28 years in clinical practice. And currently what I'm doing is consultations via telephone or video chat. And what I'll do is review medical records for people, and then we'll develop a healthcare plan together that's going to help this pet feel the best it possibly can.
Yeah, well, that is neat because I have a suspicion that you learned a couple things in 28 years in practice that you can share.
Yeah, and let food be thy medicine. That's the big take-home message.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you're my sister. Just for everybody, my sister was having some issues with her dog with just itching and yeast and having some issues, and she was feeding raw, and she's kind of banging her head against the wall. And there's the perspective out there that raw is like the only way to go, and that's where animals, or specifically dogs, in this context, this is how they're supposed to eat. And I loved your perspective on that. Can you just share briefly your perspective on the raw versus cooked food? Because I don't believe that it just has to be one way or the other, that it has to be one or the other, but just explain that briefly, because my sister, last time I talked to her, she said her dog, I forget which one it is, but said that he's doing better, to her surprise. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, she just thought, well, she wouldn't have thought that this would have made the difference. So I think it'd be great if you could share a little bit more about that.
Certainly. Part of my training is in traditional Chinese medicine, and it thinks about the stomach as the cooker of the food, and then the spleen is the digestive organ. And so if you're throwing in raw food that's literally often cold and often also damp, then what happens is you just slow down the ability of the stomach to sort of digest the food, both literally and in the figurative sense, as far as just kind of stops the cooking down. So the idea behind Chinese medicine is to feed a very, very easy to digest diet. And that's what the crock-pot diet is a slow cooked diet that you can change the ingredients up to fit what your pet needs in specific. So the reason I found that to be more successful is with dogs and cats that have GI issues already, or they're already sick, the last thing they need is something that's difficult to digest in their stomachs. And so this has been the amazing thing, is that what your sister experienced, I think her pup had a lot of health issues over the years, even in a short life, and had been feeding raw and went to the cooked food. And then all of a sudden the burden on the GI tract is alleviated. And so the immune system can go back to fixing things the way it should be, instead of dealing with what it sees as invaders in the GI tract.
Right.
So that's short and skinny of it.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal short and skinny summary. I just think that it's so good, because I think that it's just good to know that there are options out there for those that don't want to feed raw, because it's a lot of work. But not to say that it's not fitting, and not to say that, I mean, when you look at the progression, and you could probably speak more to this about kind of going from 100% kibble to then raw, or to then the original crock-pot diet, or just eating the slow cooked food. So it's not like you're denaturing the food by any regard, but it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think that was really just
that's exactly it. Anytime something becomes dogma, something's wrong. So you have to really look at how your individual dog or cat is doing. And if they're not doing great, then it's time to try something else. Raw got to be sort of dogma, and it doesn't work as well in my hands. So that's why I went with a cooked version of it. The other thing that's interesting too is that dogs and cats in the United States are actually eating over 25% of the commercially produced animal products in this country. And so if we add that raw component in there and boost it up further, that's just going to put a tremendous strain on our food chain. So I think it's important from a sustainability point too, to add in vegetables, and other starches to help kind of round out the diet.
Yeah, and I've been and still am in my my practice for high level coaching with human beings is that I just like to add this in because I think that for those of you watching that are like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of experience with this, or I'm not sure, I'm kind of sitting on the fence, I'm not really quite certain which direction to go, or holy crap, I've been feeding 100% raw and I've been having some issues, but I'm not sure what to do. Then that can give you some answers. But my golden rule always was, and it sounds like you do this too with your clients and teach your clients to work with their pets and animals to do this, is judge by results. If something, for people that are, can be vegan, vegetarian, they can do phenomenal on it, and can eat like an Inuit or a northern native Aboriginal way up north in the Great White North. And like the Eskimos, and they can eat like very, very high fat and protein based diets. And as long as they're not eating other foods, they're healthy because their system functions for that. And so there's something to be said about that too. But more so, if it's working, then keep doing it. And if it's not, then it's good to look at some other options. And so there was Roxanne or do you want to comment on that? And there's a couple questions I'm going to pull up for you.
Sure. Okay? Yeah. So what I'd say is if you're feeding raw and you're not sure if that's working very well for your pet, the easiest thing to do is just lightly cook some of the raw food that you've already got for 3 or 4 meals and see what changes. Because often that's enough time to see a big change. Sometimes it may take up to a week, but that's, if you've already got the raw all made up, use what you got, just cook it a little bit and see if it makes things better.
Yeah, and you're not talking like super high heat. This is really just like almost kind of warming up the food.
Yeah, or even sauteing it up a little bit. So, you might try varying degrees. So again, so it's cooked reasonably well through, but not cooked to death, so to speak.
Yeah, okay, cool. So Roxanne said, can you see the comments on your end?
Yeah, so working on transitioning to freeze-dried for Kitty. And it is expensive. So again, it's a really high protein diet. And I think if your cat's already eating a canned food, it's much easier than going from dry to something else because they are sort of taste addicts, just like us. And again, for many cats, this is where Crock-Pet's a great fit because the cat recipe is more appropriate for cats as far as being higher in protein, higher in fat. So that's another option. You can make a batch of food for about $15, and that's roughly 12 cups of food. So that's somewhere around 36 to 48 meals. So that may be another budget option for you, Roxanne.
So approximately $15. So this is cool because I totally forgot, but that's fine. I'm a student in the lifelong learning myself. So
Amen.
It can be adapted to, obviously not just dogs, but predominantly it's dogs and cats though, right?
Right. Yeah. So for our pet animals, dogs and cats. But yeah, cats have a different metabolism than we do. And unfortunately, we've been trying to make them carbohydrate eaters, and they just don't do well with that. So you're heading in the right direction, Roxanne, but I'd throw that out as another option for you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great because then if budget is an issue, so $15 for 12 cups, it's 30. Even if it was 30 meals, that's 50 cents a meal.
Yeah, and that's $1. Even like Friskies or 9 Lives canned food, I think that's up to about $1 a can at this point.
Wow.
So cheaper than that and a much better quality. Now you do need to use a multivitamin with it, but still, that brings the cost up to maybe 45 cents a meal or something like that. So it's all good.
Yeah, and then that's neat because then you can but that would be a month's supply. So basically you do what you got to do, and then you're a month approximately, right? Depending on how much they eat.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I like that. We never got into that with Lucy. We wanted to, and then unfortunately, the poor little girl decided to run away and transition.
I was sorry to hear that.
Yeah, she's in a better place, I guess. Now with the girls, it's pretty heartbreaking. The girl yesterday, McKenna, our oldest, had a little bit of a breakdown. She's 4.5, And then she was looking, I could see she was looking at me, but not quite. And I had a picture actually that I had on my computer around, and it was Lucy. And she's like, I miss Lucy, Daddy.
Oh, that's a killer.
And I'm like, oh, I'm like, we'll get another little puppy next year. But anyways, so it's good. So those of you, I did put Ruth's, Dr. Ruth's website, drruthroberts.com. You can go and find more information about it there. And so your presentation, I was going to say her, I was going to talk about you like you're not here, but your presentation last year in the summit was on the crock-pot diet, right?
Right, and how to do home cooking and keep it complete and balanced.
Right.
And so the presentation this year is on sort of holistic alternatives for kidney failure. And this is just one of my pet peeves. Vets saying to you, you've gone in to get some routine blood work, the creatinine is mildly elevated, and they tell you your pet is in kidney failure and you have to feed this horrible low protein stuff in the bag, and it's just the worst thing you can possibly do. There's so many other things you can do, beginning with just adding moisture to your pet's food that will often reverse those numbers and or keep them steady for years at a time. So I've literally had one of my own dogs that had congenital kidney failure, which generally is super bad news. So he got diagnosed at 3. He's eaten crock-pot diet at full protein along with several other supplements, and he's 11 now. His creatinine is 0.7, which is like in the mid-range of normal, which is fantastic. And it's not supposed to happen like that. His creatinine at one point was 3.9, which is getting to be a scary level. So it's been fantastic to watch that happen for Ollie.
Yeah, no, that's neat. That is, maybe we'll go into that a bit more right at the end here in the next 10 minutes or so, because Megan's going to jump. But I asked that was because for those of you who are VIP members, or if you do have access to the 2017 content, I know I of course don't want to dangle the metaphorical carrot out here and say, hey, this is a really great presentation, but if you don't have access to it, it kind of sucks. But unfortunately, that is the reality. That Dr. Ruth did a great summary of the entire kind of breakdown process, but I'm sure you have a fair bit of information that's on your website so that they can learn how to do it. And then do you have a book?
We do. I've got to, so that's part of the original Crock-Pot Diet membership, is an ebook that talks about how pet food in its current state came to be. There's also, if you message us, you can get a download of the Truth About Pet Food. There's also, if you go to the website, you can sign up to get that download as well. But it's sort of a complete history of how pet food got to this state, and what do we really need to be doing in terms of feeding our pets to help keep them in optimal health.
Right. Well, the old saying that rings true still is, you are what you eat.
Yeah, man. Let food be thy medicine.
Right. Socrates, right? That was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Okay, so Roxanne was just saying there was a lag. She was missed that, but so can catch in the replay. But in a brief nutshell, you had said for her was really just the original Crock-Pot diet that would be good for her cat, because you give the formula or like the ingredients that she would need.
Yes, and several recipe options. And actually, tomorrow is Cyber Monday, so it's a 50% off sale. So just head over to the website tomorrow, check it out, get it for half off. Pretty tough to beat.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, good timing. It's always good when that happens. We didn't jump in on the frenzy and Black Friday. I was getting so annoyed with all the emails. And I had a guy who's in the marketing space say that he's just looked, and some people that have very high priced courses, like $2,000 to $10,000, and they're discounting them like 80%. And he's like, how do you think the customers feel that paid full price for it? So we didn't actually do anything. We might do something for Cyber Monday, but usually we'll discount stuff that we've offered in the past, but not this year's stuff already is quite discounted. But it's great because a 50% discount, like what you're offering on something like that, that's phenomenal, because then they can get the chance. So it's an ebook, or it's a course or something, is it?
It is. It's an ebook, a course. There's several cooking videos. There are, I think, 10 or 12 different recipes, standard recipes that are set up. So if you're not really a cook, you've got a way to get started without having to have too much guesswork. And then there's an introduction to gut health ebook as well. And there's a private Facebook group where we're able to support people with questions. If they have specific health issues that they're working with their pets, we're able to help direct them one way or the other. And just, keep everybody happy. And it's been really awesome too. The people that have been members of that community for a while are extremely supportive and knowledgeable. So they often get questions answered before I have a chance to. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had that in our AWS VIP membership, where sometimes I look and there's 25 comments. And I'm like, wow, that's the power of the community, right?
Amen. Yes, sir.
So Roxanne said her money's coming in tomorrow, so she'll take a look.
Cool.
Which is awesome. And so Heather was asking, do you have a recipe to share with us with toy breeds? Does that make a difference?
Not really. It just depends, kind of if your dog is really picky. So this is a really cool story. I had a consulting client that her dog has been hand-fed for the last 8 months with all this different stuff, all this commercial food. And she made Crock-Pot diet the first time, put the bowl down. The dog went right over and wiped out the bowl and has been eating all by herself ever since. If there's specific health issues, Heather, we can adapt the recipe to fit what's going on. But the vast majority of the time, you can just start with a standard recipe and the dogs just love it. Big, large, small, and it doesn't seem to make a difference.
Yeah, that's good. She replied back saying he is very picky. So let me pull myself back. I was going to say this from my personal experience. I had some questions, and over the last year with the VIP members, I just said, somebody would post a question in the group, and go talk to Dr. Ruth, talk to Dr. Will Faulkner, talk to this person, that person. And that's what's so great about the community that we have with the Animal Wellness Summit, because not one specific person always has all the answers. But Heather, I'd encourage you to just reach out to Ruth. She's pretty awesome. And I'm not saying that because she's on Facebook Live with me, though.
Well, and I think what you've done with the AWS community is awesome, Barney, because if one person doesn't have the answer, you've got just a plethora of backup and people with different focal points of knowledge. So what you've done is just amazing.
It is. Well, thank you. I'll let that puff up my ego for a bit. But yeah, the purpose and the intention is to really impact and educate millions of pet owners and pet parents around the world to get better in touch and in tune with just the simple basic things that now that I look back at, like from using a harness, like the walk and sync system with with Alicia Evans and the Crock-Pot diet, like just all these basic things. I look at it and hit the rewind button and looked at how I viewed things before. And I'm like, how did I not see that before? But you don't know what you don't know, right?
Exactly. And sometimes it's really hard to see the obvious with all the other stuff out there that's loud and flashy, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That and when your nose is, when you're too close to the situation. So like Heather, I'll just use you as an example. If you're not really sure and you think this is what you're doing is right, you can read the book, you can take the course, but that's why it's good to make sure you can have some questions answered too, because it does sometimes just take maybe a little bit of a fine-tuning adjustment to get on the straight and narrow. And it can just take the smallest of adjustments to make a big impact. Now, Nikki, before we wrap things up here, and let me just, where is it here? Nikki. So Nikki, we're going to get this one. So Ruth, can you see that one?
Yeah, Nikki, pemphigus is just not fun. So that's for those of you that are not familiar with it, and I hope you're not. It's an autoimmune disease, and it is not fun. And this is sort of the basis for me for all of my patients. But I've had many autoimmune sufferers where we were able to switch them off of commercial food onto cooked food, and then add in other supplements to help modulate the immune system so it's not overreacting. And we've been able to get so many of them off of their medications completely. So, I got started down this path of diet because I had several health issues that were quasi-autoimmune in nature. And once I understood what difference a diet could make, I'm like, I got to figure out how to do this for dogs and cats, because it's just, I see them suffering with the same issues. But, your poor buddy at 2 weeks of age, that's really rough. So I think it would be quite helpful. And again, the community, we can help you dial that in to where it's really effective for your PEP.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that, because I think, again, just to reiterate the basics, it's one thing to be aware of something like, okay, well, this is how I would do this method of feeding my cat or my dog, but then there's this small little details that when you can get fine-tuned can really make or break. It's like an exercise program. I'll just use this for my experience. It's like you can go, and it's not so much what you do, it's how you do it in the gym or in training. It is important to some degree what you do, but more so how you do it, and the approach and the intention. But if you're not doing it correctly, you can do it till the cows come home, no pun intended, and it's not going to make a big difference.
That's right. If you don't hit your form right, you're not going to get the results you want.
That's right. Yeah, so Nikki said in response here, quick, he takes cool the blood and beta-thyme, and that's it. No steroids.
So it sounds like you've got some Chinese herbs, and then beta-thyme is, I'm not sure what that one is, but that's awesome if that's controlling it for you. And again, I think just, giving him whole real foods are going to make a big difference in how his liver is processing all the junk that's running around too.
That's good. That's awesome. So yeah, Sarah from the UK, I think if I remember correctly, she's from the UK. So thanks for staying up for us or with us. And Candace says, loving the summit. I think she said living, but loving the summit. And Roxanne really digs Will Faulkner.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
First time I met him online, it was actually on a BeLive TV. I'm like, dude, I have no idea who you are. Or we were just talking. We just started smiling at each other, and I'm like, I feel like we had talked. We've known each other for a long time and haven't talked in like 10 years, and just totally hit it off. He's such an awesome guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Now, any closing words of wisdom from Dr. Ruth Roberts before you sign off today?
You guys are here because you want a different set of answers. And so I say more power to you. If a veterinarian or somebody tells you something that doesn't make sense, check it out. Check it out with your friends, your family. If you go on to purchase the package, the membership package from Barney, you've also got an incredible resource to run questions by just a whole host of experts and a whole host of people that have tremendous experience in holistic pet health. So if you're not sure about something, always question it. If it doesn't feel right, it may not be. Good chance of it. And we do, if you message us, I'm happy to answer questions as best I can. We do a weekly Facebook Live and do a question and answer there. But yeah, reach out, happy to answer things as best I can.
That's awesome. Thank you. So drruthroberts.com, you can see the link up there, and also your Facebook group. So I guess if they reach out to you, they can find that, or is that easy to find if they search?
It is. So if you just type in Dr. Ruth Roberts, Your Pet's Ally on Facebook, you'll find our page and just like it, and message us in Messenger. We'll send you reminders about when the lives are, and we'll send you replays as well, as if you would like that.
Nice. Okay, so that was awesome, but one last question from Heather.
Yes.
I know you've recently in the last year embraced using essential oils in your practice, so can you speak a little bit to this? Do you do this at all or not so much?
I don't use them in the recipes per se. There's a huge discussion about whether to use them orally or not. And I think most folks with far more experience than I have will tell you to use them topically. I have used some of them orally for my own guys in terms of pain recipes and things of that nature. But I think the vast majority, I've not experimented with including them in a recipe. But certainly you can use some of the culinary type oils, basil, oregano, things of that nature. But the thing with that is that if there's too much of something, then pets get turned off of it pretty quickly. So that's why we typically don't add things with really powerful tastes into the recipe. And
that's good, especially because you're heating it up, right? Like in the crock pot, like you're putting it in the crock pot.
So you'd have to make like a diluted blend that you'd add just a small amount to each meal, and that gets a little dicey with keeping these guys eating food.
Yeah, and there is quite a few. Well, I know I can't think off the top of my head, even though I've got the list here, but just for time's sakes, I know there's quite a few presentations this year and last year on using them safely, choosing the right brand and quality, and just so many different aspects. So hopefully that helps. I just thought I'd answer that quick, or ask Dr. Ruth to answer that for you quick.
Sure.
Heather, thanks for sharing. And yeah, and in closing, Sarah says, thank you. We're checking out your website. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is day number 10. Now your presentation, I should have looked here, but it was on.
It was day 3 or 4. I can't remember which. It was fairly early.
Dr. Ruth Roberts. Yes. Wow, I can't see it. Yes, day 3. You're right. So day 3. So if you guys are looking for day 3, now if you're watching and you're tuning in, you're on the free version when you can't go back yet. But tomorrow, day 10, we decided to start the free, the ENCORE.
Cool.
Early. So in a nutshell, as we wrap up with Dr. Ruth, and then we're going to bring on Megan, is that you have, and so you can share this with your friends, your family members, your team members, your clients, your colleagues, whoever, or just some random person on the street. If you see them walking their dog, say, hey, you should go check out this Animal Wellness Summit. Believe it or not, I've done that in the grocery store. People are like, wow, this is so cool. But basically for the next 3 days, so starting tomorrow, now this is at the time when we're recording this live, if you're watching this as a replay, it won't probably be applicable. But so Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, or November the 26th, 27th, and 28th, all 10 days worth of content will be opened up. So you have 72 hours to get in there. So I know that usually what happens when we do a live and talk more about a presentation, we get questions in the support desk about where can I find it, where is it? So go to day number 3, and then you can watch Dr. Ruth's presentation. And if you're a VIP or a platinum member, or you have access to 2017, side note, if not, you can do so very easily. We can help you with that. But you will go to day 3 and then watch Dr. Ruth's presentations, or you can actually just search right in the members area and check it out.
Yeah, I just have to show you who showed up for the last few minutes. This is Pepe. He's been cruising the U.S. with us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a cool cat.
That's awesome. Okay, well, we'll let you go hang out with the Red Rocks. And
thanks much.
Don't have too much fun. And that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Barney. Take good care.
You're welcome. Cheers. See you, Ruth.
See you.
Well, I cut her off real quick there. Thanks, Dr. Ruth. I can't hear you anymore, but I can see her smiling, and I kicked her out earlier. I didn't think it was going to happen that quick. Usually it does a countdown and then it counts up. So I'm just going to give Megan about 30 seconds. I see her smiling over there. And we're going to bring her in a second. So, and Sarah, thank you for sharing. We appreciate that. And let me just pull this up for a second. So at end of live session, please repeat Facebook and website pages. Okay, so what I'll say for you, Lori, if you came in a little bit late, is Dr. Ruth's website is right here, drruthroberts.com. And she has a Facebook page, but I can't remember what the name of it is right now. But what we will do, I'll message Dr. Ruth and ask her if she can pop it in the comments for you so that it's easy. Because if I try to remember what it is off the top of my head, I probably won't. I'll mess it up and get you more. And yeah, so that's unfortunate that you lost one dog already to kidney failure, and have another with it. So I would recommend talking to, if you're struggling with this, I don't know if you are or not, but Brent Atwater has been pretty amazing, and Dr. Tricia working. 2 presenters that come to mind that help deal with, just the emotional side of a pet and our animals transitioning. We might say, well, dying or losing them, but they will encourage us to use the terminology transitioning, and kind of burst that illusion that once they're physically gone, they're gone forever. And to check, so that number 1, Lori, check that out. Number 2, go talk to Dr. Ruth, because she'll help you with that, okay? So let me pull this out of here. And Megan, are you ready? Ready to rock? Okay, good. I'm gonna bring her up here in 3 seconds. All right, and here she is, voila.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, and I like that word transitioning. That's a good.
Yeah, it was really, really, really good. They I don't know if you watched any of Brent Atwater's stuff, but she's.
Not yet.
Yeah, she's crazy in a good way, but just funny and dresses in different outfits when she does her lives because she likes to make light and fun of the situation that she's like, sometimes people just take it way too seriously and hold on to it. I mean, it's not like you don't want to grieve over the loss of the pet or that they're transitioning, but it can really, she's talked to people over the years, and they've been living with this sorrow and grief for years, and it causes a lot of blockages and a lot of issues, and it creates physical manifestations of ailments in their body from undealt with and processed emotions. When in reality, she's like, when we can see it, that they just transition to the other side and they slip out of their earth suit, so to speak. I will admit, at first, I'm kind of thinking like, this is a little bit out there. And she's like, I know. She's like, some people think this is totally weird, but that's fine. They're the same people that'll message me privately and say they're having a really tough time with dealing with their loss of ex-pet. And then when they hear that, it helps them quite a bit.
Absolutely. And actually, I didn't even really think of it when I did my presentation, but the one we're talking about today, is the cobweb, clearing the cobwebs of your energy.
Yeah.
I didn't think about this aspect of it, but that's a big one, because when you are still have some version of an energy block or stuckness or excessive grief, I might say it's not a question of how sad you are, but how you're dealing with it, or how you're able to heal from it. That's part of what's going to affect your not only your relationship with your future animals or other animals who you might have had at the same time, but also their wellness, because your relationship with them affects their wellness.
That's right. Yeah, that and she, as in Brent was saying, that that when that perspective is really, or that mindset or paradigm is embraced, it changes so much of how we interact with our pets and animals when they're with us physically. And so it's pretty neat. And that is good as a good segue into your presentation. So why don't you give us just, pardon me, a brief little overview for some people if they're like, who is Megan? Because at one point, I didn't know who you were. It's so neat what you do. So just give us a brief little synopsis and then we'll jump in and take some questions, okay?
Okay. Well, yes, I am a body worker, so massage, acupressure, other types of body work for animals and people. And I've been doing that about 18 years now, but then about 10 years ago, I started an online part of that, which is to share about touch for animals with both animal owners and also as continuing ed and support for professionals as well. So because I had been teaching, along with my practice, I had been also teaching with one school in their certification program for professionals. And so now I have my practice at home where I work with horses, dogs, and some people. And I have the online part, which is part coaching and support for people who just want to learn touch for their own animals. And then I also have a membership that I have some colleagues who help me also to support animal bodywork, well, really animal wellness professionals, but most of them are body workers, Yeah, so
that's pretty neat, because that's that's great. Pull this off here for a second. I think everybody knows who I am by now, and knows who you are. Since if I put too much on the screen, then we get cut off, and then people can only see us from here up. But that's just so cool, because I mean, in my experience in the holistic health field, in the fitness industry for humans, I would do manual therapy or body work with, the clients are fully clothed, of course, or wearing their workout clothes. It's not like massage therapy where you're like half naked laying on the table, but like where you can do a lot in a short period of time once you learn how the body works and you're paying attention to the energy of the person. And I didn't really, it didn't occur to me at one point that there was a field of study out there for professionals doing body work for their pets and animals, but have now, of course, been on the other side, metaphorically speaking, of knowing all that I know now and still a lot more to learn, that it just makes so much sense. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that, and then let's get into the cobweb part, because I think it's like the unspoken challenges that can create so much challenge.
Yeah.
But I think then they just get confused because they don't know what to do. But just give us like a brief overview of some of the basics when it comes to the power of touch for animals.
Yeah, well, as you say, I mean, the physiology of it, there are some really interesting differences in anatomy between our animals and us, but really 99% or whatever number you want to put on it, we're much more alike than we are different. And the physiology of things that are happening, you know, at the cellular level is virtually identical with, so all the different, you know, again, acupressure, or if you're an acupuncturist and using needles, acupuncture, cranial sacral therapy, massage therapy, structural integration, Reiki, and you know, and non-manipulating the soft tissues, but energetically, things like Reiki. So many things that do help humans just work wonderfully for animals. And then there are, you know, sometimes different ways you might want to adapt it for your animal. So it's good to get some education around it, but you can, on a non-professional level, you can do a lot for your animal with very basic tips and coaching to guide you in the right direction. And one of the most important being watching your animal's feedback, because that's very important. As you're providing any sort of touch for them, you really want to be and need to be very observant of their feedback, including their subtle feedback about whether you're on the right track, whether you need to lighten up, whether you need to change what you're doing, whether it's okay to persist a little, if they're kind of avoiding something, all that kind of stuff you want to learn. And ideally, of course, you know, be able to have somebody you can ask questions of, whether it's somebody like me online or whether it's a professional you have come periodically to work on your animal, and then you work on them in between, and you can get coaching from the professional when they come, or even, you know, by phone when they are familiar with your animal, you call them up and ask them for tips in between. You know, share your observations, and they can support you in that way too. So yeah, there's just a tremendous amount of ways we can help the animals, and physically definitely is one of the ways. Sometimes there might be some limitations on, you know, if you have a, you know, 10-year-old dog who has arthritis, you're probably not going to end the fact that they have arthritis.
Right.
But you can still ease a lot of aches and pains and do quite a lot, slow progression down. And also just, again, for the relationship stuff we talked about a little bit, it adds just layers and layers of interesting and fun angles on your relationship with your animal when you start sharing touch with them.
Yeah, and I think that it is neat, and I'm thinking mainly about somebody, those of you who are listening, that are like, okay, well, I'm not a professional, but I have my pets and animals at home, and I want to learn more about it, but also just if I know we've had this question before in the support desk. They were interested in starting something. I forget what, I can't remember exactly what the specifics was, but the essence was, I'm not really entirely sure, but then I've been overanalyzing it, so I haven't been doing anything. So would you kind of agree that at least starting, and you have to be like, oh, well, we touch our animals presumably almost every day, right? So
yeah,
having that clear intention.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I think really overwhelm us. One is that fear of, like, we don't know enough, so it's overwhelming, so we don't start. Also, there is that whole element of when it's your personal animal, there can be things like subconsciously not wanting to be a little bit in denial about their aches and pains. So, you know, not wanting to bring that awareness front and center for both of you about where they're maybe hurting or worried about something. So that kind of dual relationship stuff can get a little complicated, but in both cases, yeah, I think sometimes the one thing that can help you get started is something that sometimes in the past, and I should be doing it now because I haven't been exercising lately, but sometimes in the past when I've been trying to exercise, for example, you could apply this same idea to doing touch with your animal.
Yeah.
And I feel, I'm, have that inertia, I don't want to do it, or I have some block against it. I'll tell myself, like, okay, just go out like for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And if you still want to stop, you can stop. Right. And so, of course, starting is the hardest part.
Yeah.
So you get started and then you go and then you can go a little bit longer. Or if you do stop after a few minutes, something I always tell myself is 1,000% better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So even just taking a minute to put your hands on your animal and take a few conscious breaths together can be really powerful. But it's not something we're usually in the habit of. So it takes the consistency to build that as a habit.
Yeah, and I think that's great. You hit a hot button for me being the exercise guy.
Yeah.
But great, because I know the biggest reasoning, which people will mask as an excuse as to why they wouldn't exercise, is because there's not a reason behind it. They're like, oh, well, they feel like they should do it. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. But I will say, well, how do you feel when you exercise on a regular basis? Well, I feel amazing. I sleep better. I'm less moody. I don't crave sweets. I don't crave carbs. I just feel better. I get more done. And I'm like, okay, why are you not exercising?
Yeah.
But with our pets, I know with Lucy, when I remember last year, and I can remember this very clearly. We were sitting there, my wife and I were just chilling on the couch. I think we were having a glass of wine after one of the late nights with the summit. And it was one I had listened to your presentation, and I thought, Lucy just came over and just kind of like wagged her tail and just kind of like looked at me, like, come here. So she sat in my lap, and then I just closed my eyes. I've taken training in Reiki, but also in just work, just being intuitively connected, I would say, that I just closed just for like 3 minutes. And I felt so relaxed that it felt like I had just did 10 minutes of Tai Chi or Qigong, which is just energizing exercises for the body. And it was really cool. And then Lucy just kind of like looked at me like this, and then she just laid there. And it was really neat because it was like all I did was just close my eyes, put my hands on her, had my left hand right over her back, like her pelvis basically, or her, not her butt, but like on the top of her back, and then the other hand right across her head and her neck. And then I basically just, it was just really cool. And I could tell that she was like, wow, like this is all I would want me to do daily.
Right.
Right.
And yeah, really apply to myself. I mean, what I kind of achieve this is to have the animals helping us, is because when we do touch with our animals, you get benefits of I think as if you had spent, and I try to spend significant time with meditation and yoga and things, or going for a walk in the woods, things like that also, because I get so much out of them.
Yeah.
But even if I weren't doing those things, just like you said, even just a minute or a few minutes touch with an animal gives us a huge amount of what it would take us a lot longer to do by ourselves of some other practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the energy field of, I know, if I recall correctly, the size of the energy field of cats and then dogs and then horses, and how powerful it is. And that regardless of whether you agree with it or not, it's happening. The mechanics exist whether we agree with it or not, because some people, depending on your, from my experience anyways in coaching, religious or spiritual affiliated people are like, oh, energy work, this freaks me out, like this is kind of weird, and Tai Chi and Qigong. And I'm like, well, it's just, then take that away and just call it like energizing exercises or whatever works best for you. But the mechanics of it are pretty powerful, and that to my knowledge and understanding, there's an exchange that happens, like a positive and a negative battery. And so if we're feeling kind of drained down a little bit, it's not like we're draining from our animals, but that they can kind of build us up and fill us up, so to speak. But then the same can go in reverse. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, because you have a lot more experience than I do in this. But then we can give that back in an exchange. And back to them, and it really feeds and fuels that, as you said, that connection and fosters that sense of.
Yeah, one way I think of it is that, I definitely believe sometimes it can happen this way, but I think, but I'm quite confident it never has to happen this way, that one person actually, gives their energy to the other and vice versa. Yep. So if you're experiencing it, email me or something, and maybe I can give you some tips to avoid it, because I think it's possible, but it's very avoidable, and it's never necessary, and it's not the route I would recommend going, trying to give your energy to your animal or vice versa. Right. But if you think of, as I do, whatever God, divine, infinite, I mean, the energy is endless.
That's right.
Available out there. We just can't always access it or be in tune with it. And so when we're doing touch with our animals, and especially when we're maybe doing a few exercises and with some consistency to clear the stuff that gets in the way, what I referred to as the cobwebs in one of my presentations.
Yeah.
When we can kind of be open to it and not have things blocking it, and be in harmony with it, then endless energy is available to both us and our animal. And when we're doing touch with our animals, we are helping each other get in that better vibrational state, or more open, or more grounded, however you want to think about it, or however you're experiencing it. I think there's different aspects that could be, creating limitations depending on your particular, what your thoughts are going on in your head at the time, what your environment's like, things like that. Sometimes, in other words, maybe it's, and you don't have to know whether it's a vibrational frequency thing, or a grounding thing, or a blockage thing. It doesn't really matter, because it helps all of those.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason why I was kind of smiling there for a second was because that this one experience I had with Lucy, she was like, I don't know if this is actually what happened, but then on the other hand, I'm like, I'm pretty sure this has just been my interpretation of it. But I was doing that. I was just hanging out with her one time, and I was really allowing myself to feel stressed out, or perceive what was happening in my life to be stressful, and not seeing it as a learning opportunity. It's easier said than done after you go through these experiences. But she basically was just like, calm the heck out, like just chill out. It doesn't really matter. Just calm down, relax, take a couple deep breaths. And I know I was telling myself to kind of do that, but then I was like, she was just sitting there, just chilling. She's like, just relaxing. And I just had put my hands on her, and then she just like softened right up. And then it, like, literally within 5 seconds, I felt my entire body just like everything just melted away.
Yeah.
And I think that whether we realize it or understand it or can articulate it or logically analyze it or whatever, it's happening, and we do it every day because we feel good. We cuddle with our cats, or pet our horses, or hang out with our dogs, or whatever. Even it's just in different areas. Whether we understand it at a conscious intellectual level, it's happening. But I also think that it's really helpful, and that's what I love about some of this stuff what you're doing, is that it kind of breaks it down and simplifies it to be like, oh, here's the basic mechanics of it, and here's the things that you can do to be more effective with it, because then it just increases and improves the connection.
Yeah. And as an example too, I mean, for so many of us, when we have our relationship with our animal, and I know a lot of people watching these are probably, some of your animals might be rescue animals, or have had some traumatic things in their past. But even then, when you have an established relationship, for many of us, our animals are in relatively good shape as far as, they might have a lot of animals have anxiety issues and things like that too. But for a lot of animals, if they're relatively okay with you touching them, for example, and not scared of you, you may not notice some of the differences as dramatically of how your energy state affects them and affects their ability to receive. But when you realize, when you do have a chance to be, I'm thinking of a horse I was just working with for the first time yesterday, who had some trauma and abuse in the past. And, you know, so I had to pay more attention to the clarity of my energy and my vibration and grounding and breathing in order to be able to help her. And it went very well. But, you know, if I had been more scattered or ungrounded or anxious or having negative thoughts, things like this affecting my energy, I might not have been able to have the session with her go that well. But then when you take a case like that and you see the difference it makes for an animal that has that kind of sensitivity, then you realize what a big difference it really makes, what's going on inside you. And therefore, even for our own animals or for animals who are less worried about it, where maybe the differences aren't as observable, but they're still happening.
Yeah, that's right. Right. And that's what I was saying before, whether we're aware of it consciously or not, it's still happening.
Yeah.
As long as we're on planet Earth and we're flying through space, you know, at however fast we're flying through space and orbit, it's happening.
Yep.
It's just, and I've had people say that to me. They're like, well, that doesn't really make sense. I don't agree with that. I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's not really a discussion about agreeing with it or not. It's just that it's better to understand the mechanics of it. I mean,
it's like 18 hours.
It wasn't an argument. It was new information that was coming up for them, and it was kind of freaking them out because they weren't really sure how to interpret it. But what I was getting, what you were talking there, what you were sharing, Megan, was just that your state affected the impact that you had on that horse. And I think maybe it was you or it was somebody else in one of the presenters that said that when they're working with their clients' animals, they not only are then working with the animals, but then the pet owner or the pet parent or however people like to refer to themselves as, just as much, if not more, than the actual animal or pet themselves, because they're more oftentimes than not, and correct me if I'm wrong, or just say that if you agree with me or not with this perspective that they're mirroring back, the animals are mirroring back some of the energy that they're picking up from their humans or their pet parents.
Yeah, I think that does happen a lot. Yeah, and the animals have their own stuff too, so sometimes it's hard to say whether, but they definitely do some mirroring, and we probably do some mirroring of them as well.
Right.
But I would say they definitely do some.
Yeah, and it's not everything that it's.
Yeah. No, it's a really important thing to be paying attention to.
Because it contributes to it. So this, by the way, guys, we're going to go for a couple more minutes here because I know we started a little bit late and I wanted to keep this around 30 minutes and for timing. But if you have any questions for Megan, then now's your time to ask. But I wanted to put this on. So can you see the comment there?
Yeah.
And do you have any thoughts on that?
So Rebecca is saying she has a rescue dog, terrified of everything, but laying hands on her and speaking in a calm voice seems to transfer my calmness to her, as well as developing trust. Really want to give her a big hug, but I know that's too much for her. Really good. Yeah, and related to that too, a lot of us we want to hug our animals, and that's way too much for some animals. I mean, beyond too much for some. And even ones who maybe tolerate it okay, you might really pay attention whether you're really, like, for instance, I always thank my horses for tolerating my, my need to hug them or kiss them or whatever, because I recognize that it's not really necessarily their first choice, but I still like to do it. So that's part of their job, and they tolerate it very well. But I don't assume that it's okay. And for a lot of animals, it won't be okay. And similarly, for example, that horse I was working with yesterday, so as you put your hands on and talk calmly, and the dog responded well, so that's wonderful. If that's too much, putting your hands on the horse or dog or cat or whatever it is, first of all, you can get into hands-off stuff, of course, but also in terms of touch, one really simple adaptation that sometimes that makes the difference between whether they can receive it and feel more at ease is if you use the back of your hand. So what I was doing with the horse yesterday, for example, in a lot of places where if I went to put my hand on her, it was too much for her. But if I use the back of my hand and just, you know, a very easy pressure, then she could receive it better, and I could work my way into doing the front of the hand. But it's a similar, like that whole hugging thing. The front of your hand has more of that kind of energy about it, a little more intense and direct. Yeah.
It's like the chakras, the energy systems in the body. That the front, the way I understand it from my studies, energetically in the body, is that the front of our body is sending out energy into the world, into the universe, so to speak, or energetically in the back is actually receiving. That it's like an energy vortex going in the body. And again, if anybody's not really sure, well, does that make sense for us, for humans, for animals? There's lots of scientific studies now that have proven that with Carillion photography and showing what a lot of wise people for years have known. But with that, the hands are projecting a lot, especially the right hand, and then the left is more receiving. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the master.
I've heard some of that too. Yeah, and it's I don't know. I can't feel it directly myself, at least so far. So yes. I don't know if that's 100% always true, but generally, yeah, the front. Well, the right being is the more yang side of the body, and the left is the more yin. So that would be more projecting and more receiving.
Yeah.
The front and back, actually, in Chinese medicine is kind of reversed. The front of the body is more yin side of the body versus yang. So I'm not sure how, but it makes sense to me that a lot of the chakra energy would be projecting out the front, because that's where we're looking, where we're facing, where we're taking action,
interacting with others. Yeah, well, and that's just good, because I mean, it's could be that simple, that if you're going to touch your cat or your dog or your horse and you put your hand on them, I mean, it could be something that simple that's too much. I think even if I'm doing it really lightly, but if you put your hand on the back and just go along that way in reverse, make a big difference. I mean, it's something that is that simple that can make a big difference to kind of taking a step back and then stepping forward into that by utilizing a little tip like that, which is pretty neat.
And speaking, you were bringing in the chakras, so that's probably an element too of the fact that another thing I was doing with that horse yesterday was not facing her directly. So I would turn, my body to
the side
and have my hand touching when I was in the areas that she was really worried about. So yeah, that's another aspect of being aware of how much our energy is. What it's doing, how much it's projecting, how much it's the quality of it, but also where it's going and to what degree, and whether a sensitive animal might be feel like we're shouting at them or something when we're totally unaware that
you're not doing anything. I think that's just what I was saying before, just to reiterate, and then I don't see any other questions here, but this is been great, just because I wanted to. Deb was just saying, love hearing this discussion about energy work with animals, and Heather was saying that definitely interested in this with animals, because I work at a clinic and would love to have more knowledge to help calm the ones needed. That if there's a lack of understanding present about how much the way or how and what we do that impacts our pets and animals, then it can make it much more complicated and challenging. Because if you were going up to approach this horse and you went up and put your hands on right from the start, I just got this picture of them freaking, or the horse freaking out and just taking off. And then where alternatively you turn to the side, and that's because you're a skilled practitioner and student master of your work, is that you pay attention to the results. And if you did that, it would have probably set them off, or set the horse off, but that's what you needed to be done. So it's great little tips that are simple. So my suggestion for all of us that have animals, as we wrap things up here is to just take a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but just even start with 1 minute. You have to set the timer on your phone and call it a peace point, or I actually have this built into my schedule as a recurring appointment, which in my new schedule, I haven't gotten it on there. But I take it, I call it a peace point, where I take 5 minutes, sometimes only 3 minutes, and really just focus on my breath. Usually I love using essential oils, so I get them out and breathe one in and just help it, like, let me get grounded. But you can do that practicing on yourself, and then start to do it with your pets and your animals, and just even taking, like Megan said, a couple minutes.
That is great. I love the peace point name too. I like that.
Yeah, it's just great because when you put it in your calendar, my coach and mentor was like, you put it in there and you take 5 minutes. Put in 1 of them, 2 of them. If you're really stressed out, anxious, issues with sleeping and stuff, I've had clients of just 2 to 3 5-minute peace points in the day. And I had many of clients like, I don't have time for that, I'm busy. I'm like, well, that's probably why you have all these issues.
In that case, do it for 10 minutes.
Do it for 10, but like you said, start small, right?
Right. No, I said start. It's just a joke that if you don't have time to do it for 2 minutes, then you probably need to do it for at least 10 minutes.
That's right. But yeah, it was great because it was just, and it became a habit. And then it's something where even like today I was making popcorn for the girls, and as bizarre as it might sound, I wasn't doing energy work on the popcorn, but I was just thinking about.
You can probably.
I was thinking about how delicious it's going to taste with the sea salt and the good butter. But I was just thinking of just me being present with making the popcorn and being here with the girls on a Sunday and enjoying family time. And, I'm just saying that it's how you do it for yourself, and you do it for your pets and animals. And it's a good way to practice, because have you found, in closing here, have you found that people who, how can I ask, rephrase the question. Have you found that people who your clients, your students that have had their own challenges, that by them, they come to you thinking, okay, here their pet, their animal needs some work or they need some help, and then you coach them on how to do this work with them, and then it affects their health in a positive way because they're taking time to just be present with themselves, with their animal, even if they don't think they have time for themselves, but they'll do it for their pets and their animals. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have noticed it. Yeah. Well, and I've had people email me about the benefits to themselves and to, like, I remember one in particular who was talking about her benefits to herself, and then it was even extending to her husband. He was taking better care of himself or something. I can't remember the details, but yeah.
Yeah, you can do it for the whole house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So any closing words of wisdom you have for us today, Megan?
No, let's see. Well, I do have 2 presentations here, so I hope people will check out both. One is more anatomy and musculoskeletal oriented, and one's a little more energy oriented. And then some people in the comments here already have talked about calming. So I do have a free series. If they go to my website, I have a free series for more, which is not the same as what I shared here. I mean, I purposely like to mix it up so that if they get the free stuff here and then the free stuff at my website, they can end up with more than just a repeat. And then there's another series that I do give people for free at my website when they ask me for it, which is actually a great calming technique. So especially for people who want to help with their animals with calming, be sure to get that one. And then also I just thought was it Dr. Ruth?
Yeah, Dr. Ruth.
Right before me? Yeah, she was pointing out how for people who do purchase the package here, so that you have continued access and to the Q&A calls that you do regularly and all of that. It is quite an amazing resource to have so many of us, and including quite a number of veterinarians as well, to get advice from, as an ongoing resource.
It is, and thank you for reiterating that. I think that it's amazing because, I mean, so I put your website up here, make sure that it's correct. So it's learn.poweroftouchforanimals.com, right?
Right.
And if you just guys go and put that in, you can see it, and you can see the courses on there. The free one, I'm looking at it now. For dogs, foundations, a touch for connecting and healing, and then same thing for horses. And it's just great. So I mean, that's just
the people who want it for cats. I tell them just get the stuff for dogs, and it applies mostly very well for cats.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Because I know the cat people are like, what the heck? Why is there nothing on there for the cats?
I know. I haven't made anything specifically for them, but just get the dog stuff and then email me with any questions about.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, so guys, go and check out Megan's, Megan Ayrault, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So learn.poweroftouchforanimals.com. You can see the website right up in there, and I will put it in the comments. I know it's on the screen, but sometimes it's nice to have it right there. And I will also, I'll see if I can do this real time, but the comments that I've been leaving, oh, now it's working. Before I was leaving comments before live and it wasn't working.
Yeah, and at the moment, it's both, they're both my websites, but at the moment, Power of Touch for Animals without the learn dot at the front.
Yeah.
Just in case people get confused. They're two different websites, but they connect to each other. In the future, they'll actually all be one website. So you can go to either learn.poweroftouchforanimals.com or poweroftouchforanimals.com. But if you go to poweroftouchforanimals.com, there's just an extra step or two to get the video series.
Yeah.
So either one works.
Well, that's great. Yeah. Well, that's like a little subdomain there.
Yeah.
It's just like we have the go.animalwellnesssummit.com for the main, like the registration pages, and then we have fullcircleholistichealth.com where our membership site is on, because we have three different brands that function off of that, and then it's just easy and it keeps it all nice and simple. So yeah, a couple comments I'm going to pull up here, but yeah, there's Megan's site. I'm also going to put the go.animal. So I'll put the buy now page up here, the options we get. If you're wondering, you're watching live, you're attending the summit, and you're like, this is really cool. Dr. Ruth mentioned about this paid package. Megan mentioned about it as well. Now Barney's talking about it. I'm just going to put it up here. You can click on this link. This is going to take you right to the buy now page. And this is really what we've been doing. I just want to briefly tell you, Megan, because Megan's one of our presenters, will refer to her as a veteran, refer to you as a veteran presenter. You did 2 last year as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've now done 4. So basically you have your options, guys, moving forward. I'm just going to talk to you real quick for about 1 or 2 minutes about if you are like a free attendee and you're sitting on the fence metaphorically and you're not really sure what to do. But basically you can buy the flash drives or the digital downloads for this year, where it's just a one-time purchase. Then you own everything. You get the videos, the audios, and the transcripts. We send them to you. If you're interested in that, I encourage you. This isn't a high-pressure scarcity tactic whatsoever, but there is true scarcity in the sense that they're not going to be available after a certain date. I think it's December the 3rd, just because we don't offer them throughout the year. And so if you're interested in that, then you can. That's for those of you who are just like, hey, this is great. I want the information, but I'm not interested in the community or having ongoing support. But then those of you who are kind of feeling the pull, like many people did, a couple hundred members did last year, saying like, this is phenomenal. We love that the summit's been on. It's been amazing. Like some people have been mentioning the summit's been pretty awesome. But the dark side to it is that we don't want it to end. Now what are we going to do if everything's going to kind of just stop? But it doesn't have to, because we have a VIP membership where you can pay monthly or yearly. And in a nutshell, you get access to 2017's content. So if you missed that, you can get access to that. 2018, all the content's in the membership site. And then we do what you guys have been using to tune in to watch Megan's and Dr. Ruth's presentations. And then also our mobile app that works like Netflix and Audible in a nutshell, where you can listen, watch, and read anywhere, anytime from your phone. And you can share the presentation. So if you're a professional like Megan, who you have something that's from the membership site, or pardon me, you listen to maybe Dr. Ruth's presentation from 2017 and you have a friend or family member that wants to learn, well, you can actually just whip out your phone and pull up the app, and then you find that like Megan's presentation and send it to a friend or a colleague or whatever, and then they can actually watch it once they click on the link for 48 hours. And then Megan, you alluded to it, but we do our live weekly coaching calls, which used to be not restricted, but specifically geared for our VIP members, but it was stimulated by some of the VIPs. A shame that we're restricting this to all of the paid members. Why don't we open it up? So we've now finally officially opened it up. And unless it changes, it's right now every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, where you, even if you're a paid member or not, access to calls like this. You can ask the presenters questions. And then for those of you who want to go and learn more now, you can go to Dr. Ruth's website. You can go to Megan's website, take her free course, start delving into more of her paid programs. And it just gives you the opportunity to take a look at what it is you need for yourself on your journey with your pets and animals, and to be able to connect with Megan. And then if you have a quick question, you can put it in the Facebook group. And last thing is we're doing live weekly, monthly mini master classes. So one of them, I have a feeling Megan's going to be involved with this for sure. If you already haven't put your hand up already, Megan.
I haven't done it yet, but I'll look forward to it.
Well, here she's putting her hand up right in front of everybody. Is that there's going to be a mini masterclass every month where it's going to be a specific focus training for about 60 to 90 minutes. So where it could be similar to a topic on a presentation that's already been done in the summit. But we've been finding from the feedback from our current VIPs is there's specific questions that weren't quite addressed in the presentations. And the presenters are like, yeah, I can do that, no problem. So we're going to be putting together these trainings. And then the VIPs get it for free, but if you're watching and you're thinking, well, maybe VIP is not for me, you can still purchase that kind of like a la carte, so you can pick and works best for you. So that's what's up and coming, and that's pretty much the gist of it. It's pretty cool because we're just at the forefront of this whole movement, so to speak. And the vision for this was not to just put one person or one ideology or one school of thought in motion to say this is the way or the highway. I really believe in just continuing to move like Gnosticism or the Gnostics, where it was constantly challenging and questioning different beliefs and ideologies to see if it serves the greater good of everybody involved, so to speak. And in a nutshell, just means that you have at the touch of your fingertips through one of the memberships, of course, to stay connected to all the presenters. And it's really powerful. Like, I think maybe you said this or maybe Dr. Ruth said this, but having a question answered properly by somebody like yourself or one of the other presenters, Megan, and having some guidance on it can literally save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And you can do the research and look online, but we wanted to make it simple to bring it all in one place. So that's my official, unofficial sales pitch for you. If you're interested, great. We would love to have you. If not, that's totally cool too. Because I look at this like a glass of water. If you're thirsty and I give you a glass of water, then take a drink. And if not, then you say, I'm fine, thanks. And you can join again next year and take advantage of all the free stuff. Megan has a lot of free stuff on her site. So does Dr. Ruth Roberts and some of the other presenters. So did you have any quick thoughts on that before we wrap it up, Megan, and what I just shared about?
Yeah, well, I was just actually thinking to myself about how it's great that you really make so much available for free, even if somebody can't or can't yet sign up. There's still really, and you're doing the ENCORE days. That's great.
Yep. Yeah, the ENCORE days are great. And if you just came in late, basically tomorrow, and if you're watching this live, this is only really applicable right now, but tomorrow as in Monday, November the 26th, and then Tuesday the 27th and Wednesday the 28th, we're opening up all the presentations. So if you missed Megan's presentations in the past, now you can go to the index. You can print off the little index, or you can find it right on the website and find out which day she's on or different presenters are on, and go back and watch and get yourself caught up. So, and yeah. So Michelle says she's going to check out your site.
Great, thank you.
Great talk. And Sarah says the same thing. Sarah's got to get to bed. She's over in the UK, so it's getting pretty late there, Sarah. You better get to bed.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then this one, we'll end up with this one. I think this is great. Doug just said, nice job. Let's send all the positive energy to the vets that they might embrace some of this great therapies. And I agree. And I think that it's also really good to know that our conventional and holistic veterinarians serve a purpose. And because I know in the holistic world, sometimes people can be like anti one way and anti the other way. But I really believe in the middle road, so to speak, and looking at, well, okay, maybe that works, maybe this works. But again, you will say, as the energy person, judge by results and see how the animal is responding. And that's how it can really work. So, okay, guys. Thanks, Megan, for joining. And thank you, everybody else. I realize my hand is out of the way.
Thank you, Barney. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining on. And I've got to go get myself some dinner because my blood sugar is letting me know. And like I like to say as we wrap up, stay blessed, stay grateful, stay humble, and stay hungry to keep learning. As my dad always likes to say, is school, your life is for learning, and you always got to look at yourself as a student in the life of learning. You'll never run out of things to keep discovering. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. We have Petra Christensen and Peter Jeffs from the UK, so he's going to be up pretty late. So it's going to be a really good one. If you have any interest in learning more about the horses and some other things, then you're going to want to make sure you're on tomorrow. So thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.